So we're recording. Um, okay. So my name's Haley, and Kylie and I know each other before doing this. We were friends outside of this course and school, so we know each other pretty well. But how about we start and you just tell me a little bit about where you are now, some basic demographics.
Sure. So I actually moved to Vancouver. So probably last time we would have seen each other would have been when we were both living in Victoria. But I moved here in September with my boyfriend Nick. And I'm doing my practicum here, and I am also just doing distance courses through UVic. Um, And yeah, so I'm like living with Nick in Kitsilano area, which is like pretty beautiful and sunny and beachy. So it's like a nice little like stepping stone into moving to Vancouver. I'm not like right in the city, which has been pretty nice.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about how the move went. I know outside of this counseling that you were moving in prior to this with Nick, but why don't you fill me in a little bit about how that went?
Sure. It was good. Honestly, we have been so lucky. I don't know, everything just has really fallen into place as far as coming here, which is like never the case. I think most people really struggle when they move to Vancouver, just in like finding somewhere to live and stuff like that. But that all worked itself out really easily, and he's really easy to live with, which is good. The only sort of like maybe difficult thing is just for me. I'm a little bit more um, like isolated here. I don't really know many people, and everything is very new. Like as you know, I'm from a very small town, and then like coming here is such a big difference. So just adjusting to that has at times been a little bit tough.
So you said the feeling of isolated. Can you explain a little more about that? I know moving to a city is very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess so when I lived in Shawnigan, I had worked for the same organization for 10 years. And my mom also taught in the community. And so I knew like all the kids there by name. I knew their parents by name. And I ran a lot of programs there. So my name was pretty like well known around the community. And I just was really like, I guess, well established there. And all my friends that I grew up with lived there. And obviously my family is there as well. So I just had kind of always lived where all my people were surrounding me. And so this is the first time that I've actually been in a situation where I actually like have to actively go out and like try to make friends, which is so weird to me. And it's also the first time where I've actually had to go into like a work setting where they didn't already know me. So it's just been really different. I feel like I've had to do a lot of stuff on my own. Whereas before, when I lived in Shawnigan, I feel like things just kind of did it for me because of how how I grew up there.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how that feels to have to do things on your own.
It's like exhausting sometimes. Like I remember the first time I took the bus here, I really had to like give myself a huge pep talk. Like I was like, "Okay, Kylie, you just got to do this. It's gonna be fine once you do it." And just like I was just so scared to do it for my like on my own because I've never had to take the bus, which sounds ridiculous, but yeah. So it's really like kind of scary to like have to put yourself out there, and then to have to like to really build yourself up. And then like we'll home at high day like in pharmacy school, and I'm like, I took the bus today, and was really proud of myself for it. And sometimes I like just it's my own feelings, but sometimes sometimes I just feel like, oh my God, I'm so pathetic that that was like my biggest accomplishment today was like the fact that I took the bus.
I can see how that would definitely be challenging, going from a small town to the big city, and also moving across from the island to the mainland. You mentioned that your mom and everything, like your mom and family, are in Shawnigan Lake, and it was really well established there. How is that going? Being away from home, especially your family.
It's like it's been good. When I lived in Shawnigan, I lived with my parents, and regardless of whether Nick and I moved to Vancouver, we were going to move in together in Victoria. So, because I was just like, well, it was like the next step in our relationship, but also I like needed to move out. Even like if Nick wasn't in the picture, I would have moved out. I just like love my parents to death, but I think when you reach a certain age, it's just like natural to want to get out of the family nest. Um, and so I like really, I definitely miss my parents because this is the longest that I've really had to be away from them. But it's also been, I think, really beneficial to our relationship because we have that degree of distance now, and it's not like I don't feel like they're just constantly like stepping on my toes or things like that you can end up being frustrated with your parents about no longer exist, which has been probably a good thing for our relationship.
Yeah, so it sounds like that you have a good connection and relationship with your family, and it sounds like this is definitely was a positive move. You mentioned how going living in Vancouver and like having to go to work and take the bus and stuff like that. And so, how is that going in terms of I guess getting your name out there? Like, are you working, practicum, stuff like that?
Yeah, so it's going well. It's also been a positive experience for me too, in the sense that I've never really, well, I mean, I have had to myself, but I had just like a clean slate where I really felt like I needed to like actively prove myself, and I got like offered a paid position at my practicum, so I was feeling good about that because I guess it just goes to show that like if you put in the work and you know don't give up, you can. Or I guess I just felt good about it because um, I know that I have a lot of connections on the island, and here I don't. So it was like this is something that I know I did completely by myself. So it was for me. It felt really good.
Yeah, that's a great accomplishment, and being able to say that you got a paid practicum is great because I know that from personal experience, knowing you, that you've put a lot of work into getting your name out there, especially in Victoria and Shawnigan Lake. How is practicum going for you?
Uh, yeah, thank you first of all. But it's good. It's definitely not what I expected it to be. So obviously now that I'm being paid for it, I'm not quite as like bummed, but I was really disappointed with my practicum in the first few weeks because I on my request form like specifically asked that I didn't want anything that was either like childcare or recreation based. And this practicum is very much recreation based, which I have like so much experience in myself, and like used to like coordinate programs and stuff, and like was actually coordinating staff versus being like a frontline worker. And then like stepping into this, I was a frontline worker in a recreation based organization, and it was just like, you have got to be kidding me. I like this is exactly what I said I did not want. And I just was like, and I still sort of feel this way. I know I'm talking in the past tense, but I still sort of feel like, how am I going to connect this to like some of the practicum curriculum? like I know they ask for specific case planning and stuff. Well, this organization doesn't do case planning, so I'm gonna have to come up with a way to like do that, and that's just more work, which is frustrating.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're pretty frustrated still with your practicum and where it is, regardless of the benefit of paid placement. Um, how does that make you look at what you want to do in the future in terms of child and youth care?
That's a really good question. I also the last few months have been sort of like second guessing what I want to do. I for a long time was like, really focused on like job protection, and that is 100% what I wanted. But now I just don't. I'm just not really sure anymore what I want or where I want to go with this, and now I'm starting to think, oh, maybe like I would do a master's in counseling psychology, or and then like starting to second guess, well, is this even what I want at all? Like, should I go into something that's like about literature? Because I love to like read, and I just have been like having all these really weird thoughts about what I'm gonna do when I graduate, and if that's really what I want. So I don't know like where that comes from. If that comes from having a placement that I'm displeased about, or I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, so it it sounds to me like you're pretty conflicted. Getting this practicum that I like was not ideal to what you originally wanted in terms of a practicum, and that seems to like have bled into what you want to do in terms of your future within child and youth care, or not even in child and youth care. Am I on the right track?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think like I guess just sort of as you're asking me that, I'm starting to like put together the pieces, and it's almost like when I was doing so much work in recreation, I had this big idea of like, okay, well, I don't want to do this field per se in child and youth care, but there's so much more out there to do. And then I was really sort of like excited and like getting myself like ready for something that was going to be extremely purposeful, like something in child protection. And then when I got something that was not that, it's just like, ugh, like discouraging almost, and makes me sort of wonder like, well, is there something out there that, that I am going to want to do, or like I don't really know because I have not had that diverse of an experience.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like there's some concerns around what you want to do in terms of your degree and in child and youth care, and if that's what you ultimately want to do in terms of your career, um, and just your practicum being not what you expected or what you essentially wanted to be in, and even picking up on moving to Vancouver and having to advocate for yourself and get your name out there. It sounds like those are the three things that are being brought up. Am I on the right track there?
Yeah, totally. It sounds like you've really sort of like been able to like, I guess, like take my problems, kind of prioritize them, and yeah, those are definitely sort of like the three things that I would say are like bothering me right now, or would be like my main concerns at the moment.
So, out of those, I guess, concerns, what would you see as like um, a main priority to work on?
Um, oh, that's tough. Probably like I guess figuring out what I want in the future, because I kind of do feel like things with like getting settled in Vancouver are sort of already on the upswing, and whereas this like figuring out what I want is just at a standstill, and I'm really unsure.
Yeah, so I guess being able to, take that as a positive, that you feel that moving to Vancouver is on an upswing, as you said, and just like it's going good with Nick and the move. Um, However, the issues around practicum and what you ultimately want to do are still present.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so thinking about our what kind of goals you want to work on or to set in terms of working together, what would you what would you say is something that would help you, or what would you like to work on in terms of getting your practicum and what you want to do ultimately?
Well, I guess like sort of around like the new year, or I guess sort of around like Christmas time, I'll be looking at like what sort of programs I want to apply to for next year because I ultimately do think that I will want to do like a master's program. So I guess just like maybe like something to work on would be like finding different ones that I'm interested in and seeing whether those are like realistic or if I'm just like, you know, going off the rails here or whatever. And then as far as practicum goes, like I just really need to like work on ways of like how to motivate myself to want to put in the extra work to make sure that my practicum meets actual course curriculum.
Mm-hmm. So I guess thinking about you know past experiences with practicums that I know you've done, and also with your work in terms of recreational in Shawnigan. If you think about those experiences, was there anything that I guess helped to keep you motivated when working in that setting?
Yeah, I feel like as a because all of my practicum experience has actually been paid experience where I was working for an organization, and I just kind of felt like people relied on me more as an actual staff versus as a volunteer. I think like as a volunteer, they try not to give you as much responsibility, and I don't know, they kind of just use you as like a space filler almost. So I guess just feeling like as a staff person in the past, I had a lot of people relying on me, like a lot of other staff. I had a lot of kids relying on me, and so that was really motivating. And then maybe I guess I'm just not really feeling that way as a volunteer at the organization I'm with right now.
Yeah, I can see how that would be, frustrating, going from feeling like you're wanted and needed, and like people rely on you, and especially it being a new atmosphere. Do you think that because of being new to Vancouver, and I guess not being in your small town where everyone knows you, plays or I guess impacts how your practicum has been going?
Yeah, I think it's just been harder for me. Like I've really had to like put myself out there more, and like I said before, like kind of prove myself more, but also just like that. Also, I have to. What's the word I'm looking for? I like you said, like I don't really have much responsibility here, and I guess maybe that's just like not giving me the opportunity to like actually feel like I have to work hard, or not that I'm saying I'm not, but I don't know, I'm just not finding motivation in that, I guess.
Okay, so I guess taking taking everything that we've talked about during this session, it sounds like, a goal could be finding that motivation to advocate for yourself, and finding that motivation to be present or more engaged in your practicum, and kind of making it the best that it can be, because um, it correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's a whole year practicum.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think you nailed it. Like I definitely am not engaged with it right now, so I would like to find ways to be more engaged and more enmeshed in it, I guess.
Okay. And that's definitely something we can work on. And it also sounds like, in terms of the overall, your overall career in terms of child and youth care, or if that's even the path, like you said, that you wanted to take because you are really interested in literature, as I know personally that you love to read. Do you think that, working on, I guess, expanding or exploring what possibilities are out there in terms of, if for your masters or what you want to do after this program?
Yeah, I guess I'm like in a sense, I really want to do that because I do want to see like what's out there, but I'm also to a degree a bit like worried that I will find something that I want to do instead because then it's like, oh my god, why did I just do this for 4 years? So I don't know what kind of where the root of that is, but it's like I might just be freaking out that it's fourth year and we're graduating and I'm kind of second guessing everything, or I'm not sure, but I guess maybe getting to the bottom of that will sort of like help me decipher what I want and whether it is, worth it to look at other things or whether I should just kind of stay with my scope.
So it definitely sounds like there's some things that we can work together on, exploring what your options are and where you stand. And I think that your practicum and that piece that, the lack of motivation that you feel that you have in terms of your practicum has kind of bled into your overall view on child and youth care. Does that sound like
Yeah,
accurate?
that's totally accurate. Yeah.
Okay, well, um, it sounds like we kind of have an idea of what are some things that we can work on. Is there any, I guess, looking at the concerns that we have in the goals, is there anything that um, had in the past that helped in terms of, like coping strategies or strengths for the time being?
Because I just this is such a new experience for me as far as work goes. But so like for practicum, I guess not really because I've always been in a very comfortable situation with work experience. But as far as like figuring out what I want to do, I definitely have had this experience before. And like I started out in business at UVic, and then I just absolutely hated it and didn't do very well. And then my mom actually was just like, "Well, what do you think of like child and youth care?" And because she knew a girl who did it, and I had no idea what it was. And then I just kind of looked into it, and I was like, "Yeah, that sounds like a fit." And then I just applied, and I applied to a few other things too. Like I think I applied to like sports management and just like a few other things that I was interested in. And as soon as I like got into all of them, I chose child and youth care. So it kind of like maybe I just was like good at making a decision under pressure or something like that.
Yeah, so I guess taking the experience of this is kind of been a feeling that you've had before, it sounds like, in terms of not knowing if this is what you want to do.
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe working on, I guess, because it is unknown, that feeling of unknown and not familiarity in terms of your practicum, finding that balance and that motivation will help you ultimately maybe either stick with CYC or branch out in terms of your overall career goals?
Yeah, I think it totally would help actually. Yeah, I think you're right. Like they're yeah, I think they're very correlated, so it would help.
Okay, so I guess just wrapping up today's session, we can look at next week in terms of working on maybe assessing those two major concerns of the lack of motivation in terms of practicum and also the, I guess, exploring in terms of your overall career in terms of CYC and figuring out if that's something you want to do and finding that motivation to figure out what your ultimate goal is. Does that sound like a good idea for next week?
Sounds perfect.
Okay, is there anything else that I maybe missed, or is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
I don't think so. I think that was awesome.
Okay, perfect. Well, I will see you next week then.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.